Let's rock and roll. Welcome, everybody. My name is Lisa Hanover, and I am the president, the chair of the Board of Trustees of Bowman Hill Wildflower Preserve. And it's such a pleasure to welcome you all here to learn about our fantastic year and our plans for the future. It's been a raucous Saturday morning here, and I hope it's much calmer for everybody else. Um, So our agenda for today is very robust, and we are delighted to have Santino here, our education manager, to present a glorious program. But we do have a little bit of information to share with you. We are going to start with the election of our 2026 Board of Trustees officers, which just occurred at our 9 a.m. board meeting. Pete, can you pull us up? Great. So our slate of officers, which was just approved, are Lisa Tremper Hanover as chair, Heidi Needleman as vice chair, Stephen Hall as treasurer, and Seth Sidisky as secretary. These are the same officers that have served you this past year, and we are delighted to have this continuity and consistency in our leadership. We are also delighted to introduce three new trustees who joined us in 2025. They are David Griffith, Lori Hosey, and Susan Vigilante. They bring a wide variety of expertise to our board and a passion for our mission as well. I'd also like to acknowledge our departing board member, Denise Pancari, who's been with us since July 2023. She has been a passionate advocate for the preserve. She has served on our development and collections committee. She's very involved with our fundraising and our Rooted in Our Future auction. She has chaired our collections committee in 2024, and she is a wonderful community advocate and engagement person for us. We are sorry to see her go. We thank her for her service, and we know that she will remain engaged with the preserve in the coming years. So thank you, Denise. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Denise.
All right. The board held a retreat on September 18th. Believe it or not, our 5-year strategic plan is coming to a conclusion at the end of 2026. We want to be proactive in addressing the objectives, the strategic initiatives, our goals. So we plan on engaging a consultant to facilitate our conversations in early 2026. We will do the hard work throughout the second quarter, and we hope to bring a revised and revitalized strategic plan to our board at our board retreat in September of 2026. We also spent a lot of time reviewing the value of being accredited by the American Alliance of Museums. This is a national body that sets the standards for art museums, zoos, botanical gardens. We are the only native plant museum accredited in the United States. We bring a very distinctive place in the museum field. We understand that it's a lot of work to be able to achieve such a distinction. We've been accredited for many, many years. The process to become reaccredited involves looking inward on our entire operation, including our governance. The staff participated in this conversation with the leadership of the American Alliance of Museums Accreditation Office, and it was determined that they felt the process and the value of having this acknowledgement was worth our effort. The self-study is due in March 1st of 2027. This self-study process will begin after we've completed our strategic planning, so we aren't overloading our staff with these kinds of obligations. So we're delighted to be able to move forward with this particular agenda, and we look forward to being a star in the museum community in terms of native plants, but in general. Pete, do you want to add anything to that?
Uh, I think you said it beautifully. We are, as Lisa mentioned, the only accredited museum solely dedicated to native plants in the country. And as such, that comes with obligations from us that we remain the best organization we can be from a financial standpoint, from an operational standpoint, and from a goals and priorities standpoint. And so we see great value in continuing that accreditation status. We are mindful of kind of the outflow of work in between the new strategic plan, which will be in process next year in 2026, working in tandem with the reaccreditation process as well. So the board has endorsed the schedule of moving through the strategic plan first in 2026. And once that is complete, we will move on to museum reaccreditation in tandem with staff support as we approach the beginning of 2027. So we feel very excited about these initiatives coming up in 2026. And we realize it'll be a busy year ahead, but we know that the return on the investment will be very high for both of those initiatives. So very excited for a solid year ahead. All right, Lisa, you're on mute.
Yep. Thank
Oops.
you,
Let me
Pete.
go the other way here. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Lisa, before we turn it over really to Santino for his education program?
No, I want to thank all of our members for their investment in what we're doing here and their participation in all of our programs and being wonderful making acquisitions from our nursery, which closes tomorrow.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right. Final weekend of the nursery season. Season is closing tomorrow, so get in here. We've got a good sale going on. Just saying.
terrific. Well, Santino, uh, welcome and thank you so much for being a part of our program today. I'm going to turn it over to you.
So, good morning and welcome all. My name, of course, is Santino. I'm the education manager for Bowman's Wildflower Preserve, and I am stoked to be back to present for our annual meeting. For those of you who are joined last year, you saw I presented a history of the preserve, and today we'll be discussing some of Pennsylvania's native milkweeds. I will admit, though, with the wonderful list of attendees here, I know many of you know more about milkweeds than I do, so be kind in the chat. This is the program I presented to Longwood Gardens just a couple weeks ago, and so you guys are getting the abridged version of that. What I like to kick off with here, of course, is there we go. Now it transitioned. What is native? You've heard both Lisa and Pete mention the term native plant, and we're of course the nation's only accredited botanical museum dedicated to native plants. So whenever I start a presentation talking about native plants, I ask, what is native, why, and why is that important? And really, it's all about food. Now, to set ourselves up, the native plant boundary, where we draw that line or that box, is basically European colonization. At that point, that's when the human-assisted migration of species really took off. Does that mean that humans didn't move species before then? No. The Lenape moved plants just as they did throughout their lives for cultivation and growing. And so one of my favorites, the pawpaw, was actually moved up from the south along the Delaware River, but it was here before the Europeans got here. So it gets counted as native. And again, why is native important? Well, it's all about food. If you're looking at your screen, right, you've got two meals. You've got beautiful burgers and fries and a plate of escargot. Which one are you likely going to go for? Most folks will probably say the burger and fries. Why is that? It's because you recognize that as a food source. It's something that you've grown up with, you're accustomed to. Not that snails aren't delicious. And if you have not tried escargot, highly recommend. All right. Now, another term you might hear in the plant world is the term cultivar or nativar. And what is that? So a cultivar is a cultivated variety. Now, the term nativar is kind of the green or native plant washing term for that. It's a native cultivar. Now, why are cultivars, I'll put in quotes, bad? Really, you're changing something about the genetics of the organism, whether that be through straight genetic manipulation via, introduction of viruses or whatnot, or selective breeding. Really, farming and selective breeding is a form of genetic manipulation. You're picking those best characteristics, though it's taking place over a longer period of time. So on the screen, what you'll see are 3 different cultivars, I'll say, of cheeseburgers, right? You've got your traditional cheeseburger here with American cheese. This one looks like it's probably a Southwestern style cheeseburger with your jalapeno, some smoky sauce on top, and maybe a provolone. And this one, I'll say, is the most out there cultivar, right? It looks like a chicken parm burger. One could call each of these a cheeseburger, though you'd probably not have that same vision. You wouldn't recognize each of them. So when I talk to the public, I say, hey, a cultivar is a cheeseburger, and maybe you want a plain bun instead of a seeded bun. Maybe you want a regular patty instead of this chicken patty, or maybe it's a vegan patty. It could be all chickpea. I don't know. So it makes it harder for those local organisms that are accustomed to these species to recognize them as food. And when we're planting to the landscape, we want to try and put out what most organisms will recognize as their food source. And now, of course, not everyone has a space for a, say, 12-foot tall Joe Pye weed, and there are cultivars of Joe Pye weed that grow shorter. If you don't have space for it, but that's the species you want, of course, you can make those choices yourself. But we promote straight species, or those are the wild type varieties that you'd see out in the landscape. And for those that know me, know that I like to go crazy deep dives and will go on wild tangents with all of my programs. As I was researching milkweeds, of course, everyone knows they're named for Asclepius, who is the Greek god of medicine. But I had no idea that you could see Asclepius in the night sky today. So just to go on that story, so this is Asclepius, who is the god of healing. He was the son of Apollo and a princess, and the name Asclepius means to cut open. And where did that come from? Well, apparently when his mom was giving birth, Asclepius' mom was giving birth, she died, and Apollo cut her open to pull Asclepius out, which that's an amazing story. And so then he was raised by a centaur and taught medicine by that centaur, and that's where he learned his practice. And he got so good at it that he was raising people from the grave. And of course, Zeus was not a fan of that, so Zeus struck him down with a thunderbolt. But you can see him up in the night sky to this day in the southern sky with the constellation Ophiuchus, which I thought was really, really cool. So the other day, as I left my house on this beautifully cold, dark mornings, I said hi to the god of healing. All right. And of course, everyone knows the associations of monarchs and milkweeds, but it is much more than just monarchs. There's a whole host of insects that rely on milkweeds for their life. We've got some red milkweed beetles here. You see the blue milkweed beetles. We've got, what's the other one? A large milkweed bug, the tussock moth caterpillar down in the lower left. And of course, everyone knows the aphids you see on the right. And when people see these insects that aren't monarchs on the plant, they kind of get a little worried. You see an infestation of aphids. But I recently learned that the plants will respond to those insects' presence. So when a plant like milkweed is being fed upon by the aphids, what's going to happen is they're going to increase the amount of toxic chemicals as a defense. So just because you see a whole bunch of aphids, the plant is responding in turn. And then if your caterpillar, say a tussock moth or the monarch caterpillar, eats those leaves, they're ingesting more of the toxins, which of course the monarch caterpillar is then sequestering internally those toxins to become toxic itself, which is pretty cool. So know that you're helping more than just monarch butterflies when you're having milkweeds out in your garden landscape. Here's a wonderful classification of milkweeds and where they fall genetics, and I'm going to skip through that. Because what's really cool about milkweeds is their floral anatomy. So as we see here, there are several parts of the flower. If I scroll over here, can you see my cursor, I wonder? You can. Oh, cool. I can do that. So we've got the corolla here, and this was housing and enclosing the capsule or the flower as it was budding. And then we continue on to the corona with the 5 hoods. So they have these little hoods with the little hooks here, C, which is the horn. And then this part down here, D and E, this is the most important part when it comes to milkweed propagation. So when you think about pollination for plants, you probably think of pollen grains in moving them via insect or wind, but milkweeds are really cool. They don't have pollen as, just these single grains. Instead, they have what's called pollinia. And these pollinia are what you see here in B. It's a giant packet of pollen, and those two are connected here, D, with the, I'm going to totally screw up that word, but it's corpusculum. And so what needs to happen for pollination to occur is an insect needs to stick its foot down one of those slits in between here and have its leg latch on, catching that, and it pulls out both pollen packets. So the foot will go down slot E here, which is pretty crazy, which means that, before I get there, so this is what a pollen packet looks like, a pollinium in whole. It's about the thickness of a nickel, so these are pretty tiny. Which means, though, because you have to stick your leg down in that slit and pull it out, you have to have pretty strong leg muscles. And we see here by this honeybee that its leg muscle was not strong enough. You can see it's lost a leg on this image, and its other leg is stuck inside the milkweed flower here, and it'll lose that back leg also. So you need some large-bodied insects, and it's actually large-bodied hemipterans, bees and wasps, that are the most common and best pollinators for milkweeds. We always think about milkweeds and, of course, the butterfly species, and they will help pollinate them as well. But the butterflies are really using the milkweeds for their babies, for food, and but it is our large-bodied hemipterans that are going to go through that pollination process. And if you want to get your kids stoked about milkweeds as much as you are, there's a wonderful little book here where they have these beautiful artistic renderings of it, and I just had to give them a shout out because I love this resource. All right, so Pennsylvania is actually home to about 12 or 13 different species of milkweeds. You're not going to find all of them, but I want to run through here and give you a quick look at all the diversity of milkweeds of Pennsylvania. People typically think about these top 5, and these are the most common you're going to find in the nursery trade if you're looking for them in your own home garden. Each of them has different characteristics, and we'll blast through them as well. But I wanted to let you know that there's more than just these 5, and there's it's really cool, the diversity of milkweeds we have just here in our own home state. All right, so the first one up, this is the one everyone's probably familiar with, and the image of a milkweed, if you try to picture one in your mind, of these tall, broad leaves and this giant puff of pink flowers at the top. This is, of course, common milkweed. It loves disturbed fields and roadsides. It gets to be about 3 to 5 feet tall, pink purple flowers blooming in the summer months. Common milkweed, I should mention, spreads aggressively. So if you're putting this out in the landscape, know that it'll take over whatever bed you put it in. It's really best used for large landscape practices, restoration efforts. And if you don't have that kind of space, there are some other wonderful milkweeds that will also be food for insects for you. And it spreads aggressively. It has underground rhizomes, so roots that'll shoot out under the ground, as well as propagating via pollination and seed. Next up, we've got swamp milkweed. This is going to be slightly smaller, gets to be about 3 to 4 feet tall, typically likes it very, very wet. If you look at the wetland delineation code, is an obligate wetland species, so wet feed. If you've got a rain garden or a wetland buffer that you're trying to work on, this is a perfect milkweed for you. It's got deep pink purple flowers here and blooms early summertime. Next up, we've got butterfly weed, and don't let the term butterfly weed scare you. This is an amazing plant, and a weed is just I'll say a plant out of place. though we should not think of that as that. Butterfly weed is an amazing, wonderful native plant. Prefers dry, sandy, rocky soils. It's about 1 to 3 feet tall, so it's a little on the shorter side. It has a deep taproot and tends to not spread as much, so it's perfect if you want a little clump of milkweed in your landscape. And as I said, it does like it very dry, so if you've got some rocky or xeric conditions, this is perfect for you. The other one we see here, I see just a couple around the visitor center garden, is our world milkweed. Again, this likes dry woodland, small white clusters of flowers. There's just something really special about those little tiny puffs that I love seeing in the early spring when they start popping up. It grows upright. It is usually just a single stem instead of a clump. Again, this one's also better used in xeric and dry meadow conditions. And poke milkweed is the last of the quote unquote, I'll say common milkweeds. You're probably not going to find this one as heavily in the nursery trade, but it grows 3 to 6 feet tall, white, pink, pale purple flowers here. Again, a summer bloomer, and it is best used in restoration or garden, shaded garden areas. All right, and then some more milkweeds of Pennsylvania that you're probably not going to find in the nursery trade, but they're really cool, and you should know about the diversity of them. So first up, we've got our 4-leaf milkweed. Guess how it got its name? Yes, it is these 4 sets of leaves that grow in a whorl around them. Really cool white flowers. I mean, just like ghostly white. It's really cool. I hope one day I get to see one of these out in the landscape. It does like dry, rocky, open woodlands. Again, a summer bloomer, upright, and it's great if you got a butterfly garden or meadows, borders, rock gardens, that kind of thing. Yeah, again, it's not going to spread aggressively, tends to form in clumps. And again, it's on the smaller side, 1 to 3 feet tall. Green comet or glade milkweed is another dry loving milkweed, typically roadsides and prairies. This one, I just think it's really cool because you don't think about green when it comes to milkweeds and blossoms. It's very rare that you'll see a flower with green blossoms. That's really, really cool. This tends to bloom on the later sides, I'll say June through September. Again, if you have dry shaded gardens, that's perfect for you there. And again, these are ones that you're going to have to try to find in the nursery trade if you can find them at all. We've got purple milkweed. I just gotta love that bright purple, showy, just that pop of color is really stark against the normal green backdrop. This is typically a savanna plant. You're going to go open prairies and meadows, and it grows very slow, clump forming. But if you have a bright, beautiful, sunny, sandy spot, this might be the one for you. We've got clasping or sand milkweed. I will let you guess what kind of habitat that milkweed likes just from the name. Yes, very xeric and sandy conditions. This one, again, is 1 to 4 feet tall. The really cool purple pink flowers that kind of fade in the back. Absolutely cool. And tends to grow in small bunches, which is awesome. Again, not spreading like our common milkweed friend. We've got longleaf milkweed. Again, very small, almost reminds me of the world milkweed, those lanceolate leaves, long and slender. This one's great for swamp savannas, flat woods. Again, smaller side, 1 to 2 feet tall, purple, white flowers. I love the purple pop with the fade. There's something cool about a great fade. And again, grows in small bunches and best used for really just as a showpiece. You're not gonna really find this one out in the landscape a ton. We've got red ring milkweed or white milkweed, variegata. Again, dry, rocky woodlands, sandy open grounds, height 1 to 4 feet tall. Grows in small bunches. And of course, this one is endangered in the wild in PA. So if you want to have a really cool showpiece in your garden landscape, you can have an endangered milkweed there. And last one up, this one's extirpated in PA. So it's no longer found out in the wild. This is red milkweed. If you have a wet, boggy area, you can also have this beautiful showpiece there as well if you can find it. A grower that grows it and gets seeds. Again, it is a summer bloomer with some purple to white fading flowers. All right, so that was, I know, a like slam and run through of all the different milkweed species we had. Really just wanted to let you know that there's a diversity, and you can find a milkweed that will absolutely fit your property fine, depending whether it is wet, dry, sunny, or shaded. Do your best and combine these with a whole bunch of different grasses or forbs. Think about seasonal blooming. You want to make sure you have a flower in bloom at all seasons of the year. So you always have something for your insect friends. And think about whether you want to do this as a mass planting or just kind of interspersed throughout other things. There's a great diversity, and you can pick whatever suits you best. Resources and further learning. Of course, we've got ourselves, as well as the Pennsylvania Native Plant Society, National Wildlife Federation, Xerces, and Homegrown National Park. Many of them have, they're all a great wealth of resources. A lot of them you can just put in your own zip code, and they'll tell you exactly what you can pick for your property. I know many of us who are joining here are in PA, so we'll have the same species, but say you know someone who's out in California, you can make recommendations there. And of course, why do we do this? Well, the quote that always rings true to me is this one: in the end, we'll only conserve what we love. We will love only what we understand, and we will only understand what we are taught. And of course, that's Baba Diem. And this quote goes back to like the 1970s, and I think still rings true today. All right, friends, I want to say thank you for having me. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned a little bit of something about native plants and milkweeds. And without any further ado, I'm going to kick it back to, I believe, Pete.
Thank you so much, Santino. I sadly didn't realize that in Pennsylvania, we had such a rich variety of diversity of milkweeds. I got to find that green comet milkweed. Oh my gosh, that was amazing. All right, let me get my screen share up here. All right, everyone, see my see a giant slide? Santino, we good there? All right. All right. Well, thank you again, Santino. That was really fantastic. I really appreciate your attention to a really great genera of plants, native plants here in Pennsylvania. And just for everyone's knowledge, Santino just completed that exact same presentation, although much longer, at Longwood Gardens recently. So thank you for sharing your knowledge, Santino. That was fantastic. Well, I am thrilled to be with all of you again for this 2025 annual meeting of the Preserve. 2025 marked the beginning of my 6th year at the Preserve, and I'm so proud of the evolution it's undergone in that time due to the support, the dedication, the friendship, and the encouragement of our staff, our board, our volunteers, and our community, just like all of you here today. So let's take a trip down memory lane to see what we've accomplished together this year. Now, if you've participated in our annual meetings in the past, you might recall that I like to give each year a tagline. This year's tagline is inspired by that iconic 1980s film, Back to the Future. Now, you might remember Marty McFly, played by Michael J. Fox, is in complete awe by this souped-up time-traveling DeLorean that his crazy professor sidekick, played by Christopher Lloyd, has invented. So do you remember that timeless image of the tire tracks in flames as the DeLorean jumps back in time? Well, Marty McFly was in absolute awe as he watched this, sports car turned time machine actually work. Well, I've empathized greatly with that sense of awe this year as I've observed the significant changes that we made in 2025 to build a stronger foundation for the Preserve and create the results that we were imagining in 2024. So in essence, it's working. Now, those results came very quickly in 2025 as we realized at the end of January that we'd actually balanced our budget for 2024. We had been looking at a 6-figure budget deficit by Q3 of 2024 and had successfully turned that into a surplus, a tiny surplus, but it's still a surplus for the year. So having that 2024 balanced budget was a huge accomplishment for the organization. Also, through strengthening our foundation, many of these changes relating to the organizational chart didn't come to fruition, however, until the start of our 2025 season. It was around March when we welcomed 3 new positions across finance and development, including our bookkeeper, our development coordinator, and our marketing and membership coordinator. That has allowed Sarah Norris, our fearless and talented Director of Donor and Partner Relations, and I to focus on high-level fundraising activities, garnering substantial results and balancing our 2024 budget. Yet, simultaneously, the Preserve found itself in a quickly changing nonprofit landscape as a result of the changes made by federal government. Changes to federal grant opportunities made that income uncertain for so many of our nonprofit partners. The Preserve, however, had not yet dived deeply into federal grant opportunities. And so thankfully we were somewhat insulated from those changes as a result. However, the tax implications resulting from the administration's Big Beautiful Bill may yet affect the Preserve's fundraising success, a phenomenon that high-level development work by Sarah Norris and me seeks to counter. Now, for those of you at the 2024 annual meeting last year, I likened the year to the movie The Matrix, in which the main character Neo, played by Keanu Reeves, dodges this flurry of machine gun bullets. Now, each bullet here represented things like inflation and cost of goods and the labor market, a global pandemic, all of that. And the Preserve was the main character, Neo, right? So the beginning of 2025 didn't really feel so much different, a bit of a sense of deja vu. You can tell I'm very into the movies, cinema here today. Next, the Preserve put its values first. 2025 also saw the Preserve double down on its values, outlined in our 2022 through 2026 strategic plan. We drafted and approved the Preserve's position statement on climate change, which will be formally launched on our website in the coming weeks. Now, this is a first for the organization. Additionally, the Preserve adopted its statement on inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility, also to be launched shortly on our website. Regardless of the national conversation around these initiatives, the Preserve still upholds one of its primary goals: to be a destination and an educational resource for everyone. Also in 2025, we were able to address some of the goals of our 2019 Visitor Interpretive Experience Plan, making our property and programs more supportive of an idealized visitor experience. Thanks to grant funding from our partners at Foundation's Community Partnership, we installed automatic doors at the front entrance of our visitor center, making it more accessible to visitors with accessibility needs. Thanks to Visit Bucks County, the Tourism Council, the Preserve was the summer's site of the famous Bucks County sign, drawing tourists to our amazing property for those sought-after selfie moments. Through a generous gift from BLBB Charitable, the Preserve welcomed its new storybook trail on our Azalea Trail near the log cabin. As yet another Preserve amenity and educational opportunity for children and families, the Storybook Trail consists of a series of signs with a seasonally rotating display of an environmentally conscious children's book. Our inaugural book was A Poem Grows Inside You by Preserve member and children's author Katie Howes. And finally, thanks to a very generous $50,000 grant from the Department of Community and Economic Development, sponsored by our state senator, Steve Santosiero, coupled with an additional $20,000 in funding from a key group of Preserve donors, the Preserve launched its Community Connectivity Project to enhance safety and educational opportunities on our iconic spring trails, including the well-known Perry Trail and Marsh Marigold Trail. Another priority for 2025 was to connect more deeply with our community, including all of you here today. What better way to connect with our native plant community than celebrating the season opening of the Preserve's renowned native plant nursery? The 4-day weekend opening was another record-breaking experience that included tabling opportunities for our environmental organization partners for the very first time. We also enjoyed our second annual Happy Trails signature fundraiser shortly after our nursery season opening. We enjoyed springtime cocktails as we learned about our spring ephemerals on our trails from our very own Preserve naturalists, as well as the health and benefits of native plants from yours truly. And for the first time, we threw a wonderful early evening party on the Stone Arch Bridge to the delight of our attendees. But it wasn't just our longtime friends that we engaged in 2025. We introduced ourselves to our neighbors through a first-time cultivation event called Brunch and Bubbly in our pavilion. For many of the attendees, it was the very first time at the preserve for them and represented the beginning of what we hope to be many beautiful friendships. Of course, we absolutely could not do what we do without the dedicated support of our over 300 volunteers. From nursery propagation to special event support to our signature land ethics symposium to our sustainability initiatives, volunteers are a part of every aspect of preserve operations. Dedicating over 10,000 hours of service annually, our volunteers' support is equivalent to an additional 5 full-time staff. That is so impactful. And the season wouldn't be the same without our signature children and family event, Preserve at Play, hosted in June this past year. We welcomed 500 visitors for a rich educational experience about native plants and habitat through discovery, play, and games throughout the preserve property. This year's theme was We Wonders, focusing on how insects support and are supported by native plants in the environment. At the end of the July, for the very first time, the preserve hosted nearly 100 of the Philadelphia region's public garden interns for a day of service and learning. Interns from gardens such as Longwood Gardens, Morris Arboretum, Mount Cuba Center, Chanticleer, Jenkins Arboretum, and many more attended. Now, here's just a few statistics of the day. 33 cubic yards of invasive plant material was removed from the property. 33 yards, that's huge. 15 cubic yards of mulch was distributed on our trails. Over 1,000 native plant seedlings were transplanted from trays into cells in our nursery. And 2,000 square feet of shade cloth was installed on our nursery's large greenhouse. So what a day. And it was very fun and very hot for many of you who are on this call that joined us for that day of service and learning as well. In August, we celebrated the return of our in-person land ethics symposium with our wonderful host, Delaware Valley University, a first since March of 2020. With an amazing lineup of speakers, including keynote speaker Nancy Lawson, our attendees learned about sustainable landscape design, ecological agricultural and livestock practices, native plants in the landscape, and so much more. The excitement in the air was absolutely palpable. Please mark your calendars for June 12th of 2026, when we'll return to Delaware Valley University for a newly refreshed and updated conference experience. Stay tuned for all of the wonderful changes to come. At the end of September, we connected with our community at our 5th annual Rooted in Our Future signature fundraiser. We welcomed celebrity co-host Marty Moscowain of WHYY and NPR, who joined us for a truly record-breaking night. We raised a total of over $227,000 thanks to our dedicated and passionate donor community. And to put this in perspective, nearly $89,000 of that total came directly from the preserve's board of trustees alone. Talk about a dedicated and passionate group. Also, to provide additional perspective, it was the highest grossing event in its 5-year history. The Raise Your Paddle segment alone, we'd hoped we'd cross the line of our stretch goal of $100,000. We, in fact, raised over $165,000 this year from that Raise Your Paddle segment of the evening. So thank you to all of you here who were a part of that incredible, incredible success. And finally, we celebrated our 3rd annual Music in the Meadow event that brings live music, cozy bonfires, delicious food, and fabulous wine and beer to our gorgeous meadow exhibit. We were joined by nearly 150 attendees, many coming to the preserve for the very first time. Wow, we accomplished a lot in 2025, didn't we? But we are not stopping here. What's ahead for 2026? So let's review our 2026 annual plan together as a preview for what you can expect at the preserve next year. Now, I'm going to start with a very important slide because this is probably the biggest news that I would like to share with you today. And Julie Davies, I know you're on the call today, so this is for you. The board has approved through its budget and annual plan process the hiring and onboarding of a full-time curator in 2026. We have some resources that have come to the preserve through planned giving and bequests that we are using to shore up foundational support for these long strategic initiatives that we have not yet been able to move forward on. So a full-time curator being top of that list, we are thrilled. I am personally thrilled to bring on board to the team in 2026. So stay tuned. We look forward to introducing you to one very key important staff person next year. Additionally, in collections and curation, we will continue to support trail stewardship through the volunteers. We will look to address beech leaf disease. For those of you who are unaware of this rampant disease that is affecting the beech populations at the preserve, we will be treating some key specimens across the property and hopefully contributing to research on how to mitigate forest populations this disease. We also hope to establish an in-house reserve of museum collection plants for sustainable propagation and support our collections initiatives, and also hope to maintain our current museum inventory and collection support practices. Moving on to development, we hope to grow the annual fund by at least 12% this year in 2026. We will manage and report on our departmental key performance indicators, implement recurring gift capability. That came as a request from our donor community. We'll be adding a giving menu to our website. Of course, as I mentioned, we'll be prioritizing our major gift portfolio, as well as our request and planned giving opportunities. We'll continue to invest in our signature fundraisers and expand sponsorship opportunities for the Land Ethics Symposium, as well as Preserve at Play and Music in the Meadow. We hope to host another cultivation event, secure some new grants for this year, and you heard it here, recurring membership auto renewals for 2026. In education and interpretation, this is one big change you will see across our operations for 2026. We will be transitioning our lecture-only programs from in-person to social media podcast format. We will be converting from program registration fees as revenue from our education programs to ad revenue through channels and platforms such as YouTube and whatnot. So this is a big change. We have realized that with such competition in the market now, with free education and opportunities to inform yourselves about ecology, environmentalism, and native plants on platforms such as YouTube, we need to pivot as we have seen declining participation for paid registration for lecture-only opportunities. We will continue to invest in in-person workshop opportunities, such as guided tours, our very well-known wreath building, our Hawk program, all of those types of things, of course, will continue, but there will be significant changes for lecture-only experiences. So stay tuned on information more as we go through 2026. As I mentioned, we will be hosting Land Ethics Symposium again, perhaps with a new name, hopefully with about 180 attendees at Delaware Valley University next June 12th. Again, we'll be investing in our Preserve at Play experience for hopefully 750 attendees next year. And as I mentioned, we will expand our workshop in-person programs and hopefully develop and put the finishing touches on an audio tour program. In facilities and grounds, we will identify and transfer appropriate horticulture and land management practices activities to our new curator position. We'll create a plan for adding key visitor amenities in partnership with our visitor experience stakeholders. We will source a new grant-funded pickup truck. We are very happy to have that grant money in hand. And so our facilities and grounds manager will be doing some truck shopping here early in 2026. We hope to recruit some additional trail maintenance support and also coordinate the final repairs to the Mill Race Trail we expect in time for spring of 2026. In marketing and communications, we still invest in our wonderful 8-page printed newsletter, which should be in your mailboxes here in the next 3 to 4 weeks. And that'll be timed with our annual fund appeal so that we can support additional end-of-year donations. The marketing communications team will also lead the rebranding of our Land Ethics Symposium and leverage a newly completed promotional video to include general information about the preserve to our audiences. We continue to hope to grow our social media platforms, including LinkedIn, hopefully getting to 10,000 followers on Instagram. We also look forward to implementing a third-party online ticketing platform to increase the efficiencies of and ease for our customers purchasing tickets to education programs and admissions online. Also, we will be initiating a free First Fridays program, making every first Friday of the month free to any visitor who comes to the preserve. We hope to also invest in new media partnerships and continue to invest in cleaning up and refining the existing website. In our native plant nursery, we hope to increase our in-house propagation and our Piece of the Preserve program. We will implement new infrastructure improvements to hopefully enhance plant quality and take some weight off the shoulders of our staff team that is currently doing manual watering and other manual pieces. And by adding some automated irrigation and other changes, we hope to support that program. We also hope to expand our sustainability initiatives through pot recycling programs and trialing a new peat-free soil mix that our amazing nursery manager, Glenn White, has sourced. We also hope to refine the plant grant program to support our funding successes. We had a record-breaking year this year with plant grants, a record of 25 plant grants awarded to our community. And we also hope to leverage a donor-funded seasonal support position to the nursery in 2026 as well. In visitor services, we will continue to expand our product offerings, ensure sufficient stocking for our very busy spring season, increase our link with marketing and communications to promote the offerings of our gift shop. We will recruit and train consistent volunteer support, concentrating on admissions and our gatehouse. And we also will continue to analyze market competitiveness and respond appropriately to cost of goods increases. With our volunteers, we will maintain our robust calendar of engagement opportunities that our amazing visitor services and volunteer coordinator, Brianne Scott, has leveraged across 2025. Things like our native plant scavenger hunt, our volunteer appreciation event, field trips throughout the region, native plant trivia night, and of course, our holiday social in December. We also hope to recruit and onboard 50 new volunteers to add to our current roster of over 300 volunteers, as well as expand promotional opportunities to support volunteer recruitment. And that takes me into our 2026 budget. Now, building on the successes of 2025, the 2026 budget reflects the priorities and the goals outlined not only in the annual plan that we just reviewed, but also in the 5-year strategic plan that we launched in 2022. In fact, 2026 will bring work on the next 5-year strategic plan, as we've mentioned, carrying us through, if you can believe it, 2031 will be the end of the next strategic plan. There is an obvious through line from the 2025 budget when we built a deeper focus on development and fundraising into our operations. The goal of the 2026 budget is to maximize charitable revenue streams by leveraging the organizational adjustments made in 2024, particularly in sponsorship and corporate relationships, and maximizing efficiencies to continue to keep our expenses low. So with all of that, I am delighted to share a balanced budget for 2026 of $1,287,000, which was formally approved and adopted by the Board of Trustees earlier this morning. So, on behalf of the board, the staff, and the volunteers of the Preserve, we thank you for your time today and sincerely hope that you share the excitement we collectively have for a transformative 2026 year ahead. Thank you so much for your time. Lisa, I see you've joined us back again. Are there any parting words you'd like to share with our community before we adjourn today?
Just want to thank you and thank the staff for the incredible expertise that you all bring to your work and enthusiasm. And I just love our annual fund mailing, Together We Are Stronger. So I encourage our community to invest in us at this year end. And thank you all again for enjoying our trails, our nursery, our programming, and our place here in Bucks County. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Have a great rest of your weekend, everyone.